Now, here's Ed Bernstein.
Hi, welcome to our show. Hey, it's my pleasure today to have, as one of my, I'm a longtime boxing fan of Roy Jones Jr.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here. And a little bit later on in the show, Ken Thomson, sportscaster, will be talking about sports in Las Vegas. Now, you were here for the Mayweather fight.
Right.
You sat there. Did you agree with the judge's decision?
Of course I agree with the decision because you got to look at it. Floyd did everything Floyd usually does. Floyd didn't do nothing no different. Floyd didn't change. Floyd was still Floyd Mayweather. So Floyd is the undefeated fighter. Manny was the one who was supposed to come there and change something about Floyd. Floyd didn't have nothing to change. Floyd's been winning. Floyd is a winner. So he has an O on the end of his record. His only alternative was to keep his O. That's all he told us that he would do. He didn't say, I'm going to come out against Pacquiao and give you guys a show, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to wrestle that. He didn't say that. He said, I'm going to beat him. I am better than him.
He wasn't there to to appease the fans. He was there to win.
That's as simple as that.
And he had his method, and it seemed like the fans were upset, knowing how he was going to fight that fight, and then they were upset that he didn't do it differently.
Well, if you're upset, the only person you really should be upset with is Manny Pacquiao, because Manny Pacquiao came with, to me, one plan, and he didn't have an alternative plan. If he had had an alternative plan, he could have made for a more eventful fight. And he could have possibly Mayweather change and do things a little bit differently than we're used to seeing Mayweather do. But Mayweather didn't do nothing that he was not supposed to do.
And of course, now Manny is complaining that he had a rotator cuff injury prior to the fight, that he was fighting with an injured shoulder, that the Mayweather camp knew about it, and Floyd intentionally went after that shoulder.
That could be true, but you should know that if you have a shoulder injury, you know each camp, like he said, they spy on one another. If he knows you have an injury, then he's trying to win. It's the biggest fight of his life. Of course he's going to attack the shoulder. Who wouldn't? You're trying to win the biggest fight of your life, not lose it, win it. And you're not trying to help this guy compete with you in the biggest fight of your life. You're just trying to win it by all means necessary.
No, I've had rotator cuff injuries. I would find it hard to believe that he can even lift his arms to box with rotator cuff injuries.
Well, I would find that hard to believe too, because, and not that he couldn't lift his arm to box, but that you would use that as an excuse. Because at this point, when you fight, if you're okay, you're capable to walk up in the ring and say, you know what, I fought. Yeah, I might have an injury, but I'm not even sure that injury was the problem, so he won that. That's what it was. Let's move on. Either we can try it again when I get fixed, or let's just move on. But you don't have time to get fixed before September, because he says he's fighting one more fight in September, he's retired. So you can forget about it.
Speaking of retiring, you haven't done it. And these guys are, what, 36, 38, and you know, people are talking about they're maybe a little too old to be boxing, and you're in your, what, mid-40s?
Mid-40s. These guys are 36 and 38, and these guys have now made, in one fight, over $100 million. These guys now at a point where they can say, well, do I go get my rotator cuff fixed and keep fighting, or do I stop now?
Right.
I got what most fighters seek after. So they can do that. Or they both won titles as high as they went. They on their way back down in weight classes. As a matter of fact, Manny was talking about going back to 140 after this fight. Mayweather went to 154 as well. He's been coming back down to 147, and he probably stayed there the rest of his career. Me, I went up and up and up, but what I did was, I did so much, I covered so much ground, there's a little bit of a clear space that I missed, which was the cruiserweight belt. Now, for me, I'm a little bit different, because yeah, I had to fight for a cruiserweight title. These guys are bigger than me physically, just like when I won the heavyweight title. I don't complain about it, and I go up and do what I got to do. But it would be much easier if I knew I was making in excess of $100 million to fight for the cruiserweight belt. Then it would be like, bring me any of the cruiserweight champs, I don't care who it is. And I say that anyway, though. So it's like, but it's much more a pressure on me if I was making that kind of money to make sure I perform and give the fans what they want. So it's possible that I could lose, because that's just how I am.
Right.
Everybody's not like that, but that's just me, because if you put me out there and say he the champ, we're going to find out how much champ he is, and is he the champ in every aspect, because I have a show to put on and I have a point to prove.
Exactly, and I wanted to ask something. I remember when Mike Tyson won the heavyweight championship for the first time. The next morning he was asked by a reporter, hey, Michael, how is your life different today? And Tyson's answer was so profound. He said, it's going to be a little bit harder for me to run 5 miles this morning. Meaning that now that you've made it to the top, you lose the eye of the tiger. You lose that edge, the drive to...
hunger.
The hunger, better word. You have been in so many different weight classes and at so many different title bouts at those weight classes. Seem to have not ever lost that, or have you?
No, I never lost the hunger because I love what I do. And I know that for me, I'm different. You know what I'm saying? I am the guy that people expect to see something different and extraordinary if they see me in front of a TV screen. So I can't go out there and just box a guy and win and they be satisfied. No. I need them. See, the barbershops are closed on Monday. The hairstylist place, they all closed on Monday. Boxing is one of the best barbershop talks in the world, has always been. So on Tuesday, when they get to work, I need them to remember what happened Saturday night so they all can be talking about it Tuesday. Not in a bad way, in a good way, but I need them to be talking about what Roy did Saturday night on Tuesday. So I got to give you something so you can remember it. So when you get to the barbershop Tuesday to get your hair cut, we have conversation about Roy and what Roy did.
So a lot of your drive is really performing.
Of course.
For the audience.
But like I said, that's why we're different. That was my biggest drive, to perform for my audience. If it cost me a loss, I'm still gonna take the risk because that's who I am. Everybody don't see it that way, but that's just who I am. Yeah, people gonna talk about you either way. Look at Floyd, he's perfect, he's undefeated. And they still bash him about the performance when it wasn't his fault. So they're gonna talk about us regardless. You understand me? It's just that what you choose to be. I chose to be the guy that, I'm a risk taker. That's how I've been living since day one. My father used to always get mad because he know if he put me in the ring with somebody bigger than me, if they hit me hard, forget all the other stuff, we gonna fight now. So he was like, don't do it because I know you. When you get hit, you gonna sit down and fight with him. You're sure right. I sure am, because that's just who I am, because that's the entertainer in me that comes out. But, you know, to be honest with you, Floyd ain't much different from that. You understand me? Just that he chooses to make sure he stays undefeated, he does it smarter. I ain't that smart. I just go out there and go, I'm going at you because I got to have it. So, you know, that's the only difference.
Different personalities. But
that's all.
A psychiatrist sit here and listening to this conversation and say, hey, you spent a lifetime trying to please your father, and now you're starting to please the rest of the world.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's true.
So, yeah, very true. Yeah.
Because your father was very driven and training you and working you, kind of like Andre Agassi's dad did the same with him.
Hard on you, but they were like look at Floyd's father. Floyd went in the fight. He told him, "You ain't man. You gonna let him take this from me?" He was still on it. But that's what fathers do. They want their son to go out and do the best that they can. And Floyd was doing his thing still. But you know, I know because I have a father and I understand how fathers think. They want us to go way over and beyond what's expected of us.
Yeah, and do better than the father did, right? Now you have sons, and but you handle your sons a little bit differently.
Handle them a little bit differently, and I also didn't want any of them to get into boxing. However, I have a 6-year-old that I know he's coming, and he's gonna box. I wouldn't care if he lives. If God blesses him to live, he gonna fight. And there's nothing I'm gonna be able to do to stop him because that gene is in him.
So
there's nothing I can do to stop him from fighting. But the other thing I want to mention to you about the hunger too was that what I've learned, and Floyd made a good point about it. He said, you know, it's so hard to get to the gym. And once I get to the gym, it may take me 2 hours to get started now. But once I'm started, I'm gonna go. Can't nobody beat me once I get started. It just takes me a while to get started because that's the thing we have to deal with after being there for so long and not really being hungry anymore. It's harder to make ourselves go. Once we get there, we good, but it's just harder to get us there. Me, I now try to get up at 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I go straight to the boxing gym. Why? Because if I go to the boxing gym and get it over at 5:30, 6 o'clock, I'm done. Now I ain't got to worry about the excuses, the things that may come up, the excuse that I got to go pick my son up from school because he's sick, or my daughter wants to go get ice cream tonight. You know, I don't have to worry about dealing with all of the excuses that I could make later on in the day if I go ahead and get the training over with. So even when I'm out here in Vegas at the gym at the Roy Jones Jr. Fight Academy, the guy said, why do you go to training at 8 o'clock in the morning? That's too early. No, it's not. If we go ahead and go at 8 o'clock in the morning and get it over with, we got the whole rest of the day to do whatever we want to do. So no excuses come up to things we got to do. You understand where I'm coming from? And that's the easiest way to get it done for me.
Yeah, and it makes sense, and it works for you. You know, when I was doing some, research, and I had forgotten how incredible your career is, and was and is. You're still boxing, but and I had forgotten, and I'd just like to go through it again because I mean, if I forgot, maybe a lot of our viewers forgot what happened in the 1988 Olympics in Korea.
Yeah.
You had won a silver medal, and however, there were 3 judges. There were South Korean judges. Is that correct?
One was South Korean. It was 3, but they weren't all South Korean. One was South Korean. One was from Malaysia, somewhere like that. One was from another place. There was 3 different ones.
And these judges and everybody who viewed the fight thought you had won it,
Right.
decisively.
Right.
And then I guess they had determined later that, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that these 3 judges had been wined and dined by the South Korean government,
Right.
and the gold medal was awarded to a South Korean.
Right.
And then since then, since 1988,
Right.
you have been robbed.
Yep.
And I guess there's been some movements from time to time to try to get that silver moved up to a gold and award you what you properly deserved.
Yeah, well, my problem is that they say we have we have a judicial system now, and we should have it across the world, right? Well, if there's a wrong done, you correct the wrong. You don't leave it wrong.
Right.
If you don't correct the wrong, you lower the integrity of the sport or the integrity of whatever the crime may be. You know, if it's okay for people to walk around and just mug people and take their purse and keep moving in and nothing happens, then everybody gonna keep doing it. So you have to stop and punish people or correct the wrongs in order to have a balanced society. If you don't, then wrong will take over. So in boxing, they didn't correct the wrong. They went and changed the scoring system. Why would you change the scoring system when you just got 3 corrupt people here? You don't have to change the whole system. This system been working fine up until this point. So because these 3 corrupt people ruined this event, and you got it on tape that you could go fix, you could change it right another day because it's the finals. You got it on tape. These 3 people are the only thing that's wrong here. You yet go change a whole system and ruin it from that point to today, because it's been ruined from then to me. You understand me? I think Floyd Mayweather Jr. was a victim of it. There are a few other fighters that have been victims of it. And it's like, it's a horrible system. And they don't count body shots. I mean, come on, man. Why would you change it if it wasn't a problem? Because now we went and found a crime, and we just caught an innocent guy out here, and we caught him because he did something else, and we stuck the 3 crimes on him that we couldn't find the answer to. You understand me?
Yep.
You don't do that. That's what you did. You took a situation and you attached the scoring issue to it when the scoring issue had nothing to do with it. So you ruined it. And that's why, like right now, even last Olympics, no American male boxer even got a medal. That is ridiculous. We used to dominate the Olympics until that happened. Since that happened, we have seen a constant decline in how we've been doing in the Olympics.
Do you think that's intentionally to kind of minimize the American influence in Olympic boxing?
I don't think it was. I think just that the fact that they would, because that's too well, I think that would have been too well orchestrated for them to say, we're going to take the Americans out of the Olympics by doing this. So I don't think they meant to cause it as much problem as they did. I just don't think they knew or realized how big of an influence this was going to have 30 years later.
Yeah. Does it still bother you?
Of course it bothers you because, I mean, if somebody killed my child or did something to my child, robbed my child, and you saw him rob him, and you're not going to go get him and get my stuff back and give it back to my child and prosecute him, then you put it in my hands to do, because you know who did it, and you just gonna let him go ahead like that? So what you tell me is next time I get a child, he can go do it again. So if you're not gonna fix it, now I got a problem.
Of course, those judges were suspended, right?
Yeah, they were suspended, but that's not the problem. You change the scoring system.
Right.
Why? The scoring system wasn't the problem. It was the judges. Ban them. And they, which I think they were, and that's good enough. Now the next set of judges knows, don't do that or you're gonna get banned.
Right.
Now we got something. Now we got something to go on. I would even relax better if I know that, because now y'all fixed it. You banned the judges who were the problem, not the scoring system, just the judges. Now we can move on.
I alluded to the fact that you've been in so many different titles in numerous weight classes. You went from what, light middleweight to heavyweight.
First guy in the history of boxing to turn pro as a junior middleweight, and become heavyweight champ of the world.
It's amazing because that weight, that junior middleweight is
154.
154, and the heavyweight's over 200.
Right.
Right. So is it easier to gain the weight and fight up or come down?
Much easier for me to gain the weight and go up, because when I came down, it took a lot out of me. But I had never physically been that big before in my life, and I did at 36 years old. So it's like, whoa, when I took it down, it almost killed me.
Having won all these titles, also prolific rapper and actor, right? You've been in several movies. What's in the future for Roy Jones Jr.?
Well, what's in the future for me is I got a few things. I'm working on that Body Head Bangers Volume 2 right now, so y'all be ready for that by the mid or end of the summer. I'm probably going to fight again a few more times, trying to go get this cruiserweight belt. Get this cruiserweight belt, I can close the books in and call it a day. The only other thing that's looming out there now is two things, but the only other thing that's really looming out there is I think the Floyd Manny fight was the biggest talked about fight over the last 5.5, 6 years.
Yeah.
The only other fight I think that loomed that was talked about remotely close, and it wasn't nearly as close, but remotely close, was Roy Jones Jr. versus Anderson Silva in a boxing match. And we never made it happen because the UFC didn't want to come and do it yet. And I mean, I'm good friends with those guys, and I know it's still a possibility for him. He's at the end of his career in the UFC, I think. I'm at the end of my career in boxing. It's an event like we had in Vegas this last weekend, which is last weekend these guys really showed how much love people still got for boxing, because I cannot think of an event that ever had the type of traffic flow, the energy that this event had, man. And Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao deserve all the credit, because they really showed us what people still care about coming to a big event that includes boxing.
Yeah. Hey, Dana White, it sounds like a challenge to me. Get your UFC fighter in here against Roy. I mean, I can go on forever. I had 1,000 questions, but we're just about out of time. But thank you so much, Roy Jones Jr. I don't know of any athlete that has put in the amount of training and the amount of years and the amount of success that you have had. And it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, brother. Glad to be here.
We'll be right back with Ken Thomson. Accidents don't discriminate. They can happen anywhere to anybody. It really comes down to results.
Enough said. Call Ed.
I'm Ed Bernstein, and I've been getting those results for nearly 40 years.
EdBernstein.com.
I'm back with Ken Thomson, who, now you have a radio show that goes around the world, right?
It does. Well, I mean, Yahoo Sports Radio picked it up last year, so it goes across the country, and then, you know, around the world. Yeah, you go to yahoosportsradio.com, you can pick it up, and it's great to hook up with a reputable company like Yahoo.
Oh, what makes you think they're reputable? Oh, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, so but your show comes out of Las Vegas, right? Out of the Venetian.
Out of the Palazzo, on the Palazzo side, Legacy Stadium. They built a nice studio there, right in the front there, and it's Jay-Z's old 40-40 club, so it's to die for. I mean, Dana White, UFC holds all his parties there, every game, private rooms, you name it. It's the best venue, I think, in the country.
Unbelievable. Okay, and you're live. I mean, you do your show live, but can you pick it up? You have to view it live, or it's on the internet and you can pick it up and it streams down anytime?
It is live. You can go back and podcast it, but 7 to 10 p.m. locally Pacific time, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. over on the East Coast. But yeah, 7 to 10 is a perfect time because you get all the East Coast games are finishing up, all the West Coast games are just starting, so you can kind of review and then you can preview, and you have a little bit of that Vegas flair, Ed, as well, because I'll hit all those games against the Vegas number as well as just the information side of things.
How'd you get interested in this?
Well, growing up back in Jersey, my dad was from Brooklyn, mom was from PA. We settled in North Jersey. My great uncle was a basketball and baseball coach for many years, coached a lot of great players, Connie Hawkins, John Candelaria, both basketball and baseball. Was a little kid trekking around with them as, you know, to all these different necks of the woods, and fell in love with sports. And I've been basically the motor mouth and the guy that memorized the sports almanac when I was a kid. One of those, you know, my dad's like, can't you use, you know, this memory for something else? I'm like, oh, it's girls' phone numbers, Dad, and sports, and that was it.
Did you play any sports?
I did. I played baseball, basketball, and football. Baseball was my best sport. I was a good pitcher, but you know, hanging around the kids that I hung around with in Jersey, although their parents said the same thing about me, joined the service at age 18 and got to the West Coast. That was my goal, and been out here for over 30 years now.
Yeah. Well, this is a great time to be in the sports business. You got the hockey playoffs, you have the NBA playoffs, you have baseball, you know, just starting out. You got draft with the NFL.
Yes.
Right. You got a lot of things going. A lot of things for you to talk about. I found out that you were a Rangers fan.
Yes.
And we were talking about the hockey playoffs. Now, what is it with hockey that it doesn't have the popularity that other sports have? Particularly, and I also, I'm setting up the question to ask you about hockey in Las Vegas, but hockey in general doesn't seem to have that kind of viewership or wide audience, although when you're at a game, I mean, there's hardly a sport more exciting than that.
I agree, and my dad took me to a Rangers-Bruins game when I was a little kid. But Ed, I really think it depends on where you're from. You go to Canada, you can't tell me it's not the most popular sport there. You go to the Northeast, you go to Boston, you go to New York, you hit a hockey town like Chicago or Detroit, it's big time, it's sold out. I mean, when you're talking about warm weather areas, it's a little tougher to get people in Tampa Bay or Florida to be there, or Phoenix to sell out games. The LA Kings took them a long time. I'm good friends with Bob Miller, the voice of the Kings, for 4 decades. They finally won a cup, now they've won 2 in the last 4 years. And it takes a little while to get those people into a venue when it's, 80 degrees and sunny out, and there's so many other things going on. When it's cold and, you're there and you're stuck with the weather, you look forward to going to that venue.
Yeah, and that problem is magnified, in Las Vegas, because you have so much going on in Las Vegas, as well as that kind of good weather. What's your feeling about the potential success of a NHL hockey team here?
I think, first off, we have a melting pot. So we have so many people from places like Detroit and Chicago and New York and Boston. So you're going to have hockey fans. If you give us a team that's an expansion team that we can call our own, that's huge. Whenever you get a team that moves from another city and is transplanted, not the same feeling. If this is our team from the inception, I think we're good to go. I think we'll build on it. Naturally, success will help mold the fan base.
How does it look to you? What are the odds of us getting a team?
I'd say 75% we get.
Wow, that's exciting. Basketball. Okay, we got middle of playoff games. As the day that we're taping this, LeBron James has been, quite the talk of the playoffs. He's, came back to Cleveland. Cleveland had missed the playoffs. Now he's back with the team, and he's determined to have a successful playoff. Teams had some setbacks with some of their other members, suspension and injury. And, so how does that put a lot of weight on LeBron's shoulders?
A lot more. He's got to be a little more unselfish. He loves to get everybody involved, but the suspension to J.R. Smith for 2 games, that hurt. They lose game 1. They've got to come back and win game 2. Kevin Love, of course, is a major loss, but I think with Shumpert upping his game, and we saw him with 20-plus last night, 4 3-pointers, that's huge. But if you can get the production from J.R. Smith back from his Denver days, he goofed off too much in New York, but I think he's focused as far as when he's on the court with LeBron and realizes he's got a chance to win a title. So they need to come through, but LeBron needs to take it on his own shoulders. 4 minutes to go if it's a tie game. LeBron, go to the rack.
And how do you feel about the playoffs in general? Who do you like?
I like Golden State, and it's not just because of Steph Curry, and of course he got named the MVP yesterday, but I like Klay Thompson. I think Bogut, healthy in the center, that gives him that guy in the middle that they're not just going to be trampled on down low where the other team can take advantage. And you've got Ezeli off the bench. This is a deep team. It's a fun team. Steve Kerr doing a great job. He is one of those players, coaches. And when you have Thompson on one side and you have Curry on the other, tell you what, pick your poison. If you leave one of those guys open, you're in trouble.
It's been a long time since they won a championship?
Long time, in the 70s.
Wow. Where they weren't Golden State.
Yeah, they were. They were actually Golden State, yes.
Okay.
This was when they were just becoming Golden State from San Francisco, yes.
Oh, okay. Baseball. I mean, we have so much to talk about and so little time to do it. With baseball, you got baseball season starting. Any surprises so far?
2, major surprises. The Houston Astros had a 10-game winning streak busted last night, but this is a team, they're in the AL West. Right now they find themselves 6-7 games ahead. That's kind of blown everybody's mind that thought Seattle was that team, the trendy team to go with that should run away with the AL West, or maybe the Angels would give them some competition. My Mets off to a good start, but their run production is limited, so Washington eventually will catch them, pass them, and the Nationals are still the team to beat in the NL West. In the NL East. In the NL West, the Dodgers, Kershaw off to a slow start, had a 3-0 lead last night and couldn't hold it. So some question marks there, but I expect the Dodgers and Washington from the National League to compete. Don't sleep on St. Louis. Good to see the Cubs relevant again. Pittsburgh still right there in the mix. And in the American League, you've got Detroit still good, Kansas City, AL East up for grabs, and the Yankees are actually playing pretty good ball.
Yankees going to be able to last?
I hope not, because I'm a Mets fan, so anytime the Mets lose but the Yankees lose, it's still a good day for me, Ed.
I just want to follow up on some of the stuff that Roy Jones was saying about the fight and Manny. What's your thought about Manny now complaining about his shoulder?
Hey, you know what? It's pick your poison. You cannot do both things. You cannot go and collect the $100 million plus that he got and then come out right after the fight and say I was hurt. If you were hurt, it kind of sucks for the fans, I think, because if we have an injury report on football, we have a good idea. This guy's not going to go, that guy's not going to go. We don't have an injury report on boxing. We don't know your shoulder's banged up. So we're forking out $100 to pay for the pay-per-view or whatever they paid, those ridiculous prices for the tickets, and then you find out that the guy that you may have bet on wasn't going in near 100%. That hurts. So I think, you know, he took his shot. He thought he may get away with it. He may still pull off a victory. If you lose, don't give me the sour grapes. Floyd Mayweather deserved the fight. He won the fight fair and square. My heart wanted Pacquiao, but my brain bet on Mayweather because the guy's undefeated. It's in Las Vegas, and he is the best defensive fighter I've ever seen.
One question I forgot to ask Roy Jones was, who would have him or he with a matchup with Floyd Mayweather, both at their prime? Who's the better fighter?
I'll take Roy Jones. I think Roy Jones Jr. was the best pound-for-pound fighter that I've ever seen. I mean, Tyson was a bull, but there was nobody really in his weight class that was worth a darn at the time. You know, we saw so many great fighters as we're growing up, Ed, when, you know, back in the heavyweight days when you had Ali and Frazier and Norton and Foreman, that was great. When you had the Haglers, Durans, Leonards, and Hearns, I mean, that was a great era. Really nothing there for Floyd Mayweather to have a rivalry against.
Okay, so Ken, thank you so much. You can catch Ken 7 to 10 p.m. on and
it's on KDAWN locally, AM 720, right. KDWN, and the Yahoo Sports Radio Network nationally.
Right. So how do you find Yahoo Sports Network?
That's it. Just type it in, yahoosportsradio.com, and you're there. Yahoosportsradio.com.
Hey, you can catch it on your phone,
your phone,
iPad,
free
anything.
app, all that good stuff, Ed.
Hey, thank you so much. And you can catch them. You can go down to the Venetian and see, right?
There you go, right in the Palazzo Legacy Stadium. There.
Okay.
Outstanding.
We'll see you next week.
There you go.
Accidents don't discriminate. They can happen anywhere to anybody. It really comes down to results.
Enough said. Call Ed.
I'm Ed Bernstein, and I've been getting those results for nearly 40 years.
EdBernstein.com.